2023 Ironman 70.3 Virginia's Blue Ridge. A great race to have for you, and without further ado, let's get into some of the nitty-gritty details here this year. Make sure you read the athlete guide. They have a couple of unique things that are happening on this course. First of all, there is going to be a little hill challenge out there in the first male and female that go up this mountain at the fastest duration. They do get a Wahoo Element Bolt, which is something to definitely take note of if you want to make a little stab at that. So, athlete guide here, page 4. We have the event schedule here. Friday, we have the athlete check-in. This is the first unique thing at this event. The bike check-in does occur after you complete your athlete check-in. You can check in on Friday and Saturday, but you do have to check in your bike when you do check in. So it's not a separate process. It is the same process at this event for your bike. They do recommend removing things like computers and loose things on the bike, such as, water bottles, that kind of stuff. And they're going to transport the bike for you, which is great. But you do have to do that during your athlete check-in process at this event, whether that's Friday or Saturday. Saturday, you do have your mandatory run gear bag check-in, and you will not have access to T2 on race morning. So make sure you are packing in your run nutrition if you are bringing extra or specific nutrition for your race. And that is pretty much the unique things that are happening at this race. Other than that, we have optional run gear bag check-in. You can do that on Friday along with the bike check-in as well, as along with your personal check-in. Athlete briefings are happening at 2 and 4:30 on Friday, and then on Saturday again at 10 and noon, also at 2 p.m. for that last one. Saturday, this is a race that does have shuttles over there, 3 to 6:30 a.m. Parking opens, and the transition opens at 4 a.m. here. Because you do not have access, or the bikes do get shipped out, you might want to think about arriving a little bit earlier to T1 so you can run through the gears and all that good stuff. You're not going to be allowed to have the bikes leave the transition area on race morning, but you can run through the gears yourself and make sure everything is at least working, tires are pumped up, that kind of thing, and take care of any issues if they do happen. Award ceremony is happening at 4 p.m. after the race on that Sunday. And again, make sure you are going to that slot allocation roll down if you are close in your age group. Page 6 is athlete check-in. When, where? It is at the River Edge Park, 100 Reservoir Ave, Southwest Roanoke. Plug that into your GPS and just save that as an important location. Athlete check-in steps, same as every race here. You're going to get an athlete wristband, you're going to get some stickers, and on page 8 we have some pre-race info, and again, this is where they do talk about some of the unique things on this race. So mandatory bike-in. Bikes will not be permitted to enter the transition on race morning. They say it here, they say it a couple different places, and again, you are going to have to drop off your bike when you do check in, so that's going to be a little bit different than what is normally happening. Run gear bag check-in. Again, you will have to check it in at the Transition 2 area at Rivers Edge Park on Friday, June 2nd and Saturday, June 3rd. Those are your two options. You will receive your timing chip when you drop off the run gear bags at T2. So they're kind of hitting you both ways just to make sure that you have taken care of bike check-in, which is at the athlete check-in, and also your run check-in, right, your run gear bag when you have all your running stuff in it. Then you will get your timing chip, so you have all of the necessary things done, and you will also have the necessary items to race. On page 9 there's a breakdown of the bags, and on page 10 we do talk about some parking and shuttle info over here. Again, the shuttles open up very early for you, and there are a couple of garages and lots being utilized, so make sure you look at page 10 of the athlete guide and use whichever one is closest to you, okay? Race day info, transition opening at 4 a.m. Transition 2 will not be open on race morning, so you won't have access to any of your run items that you have placed in there. So make sure you plan ahead of time, okay? Make sure you are aware of that on race morning. You won't be allowed into T2. Body marking is not necessary. They won't have markers there. Aid stations, again, this is one of the last unique things here. Aid stations 1, 3, and 4 are going to be normal, and aid station 2 here, located at mile 27 on the Blue Ridge Parkway, is a water-only stop. They're doing that to preserve the nature area up there, so make sure you are aware. Mile 27, bike aid station 2, only water. Do not arrive there and have any surprises. Because of that, you might want to think about topping off at aid station 1, even if you don't totally need it, because the next time you are going to have access to things is going to be mile 31. The aid stations, they have all the regular fixins, and on the run, it's pretty much standard at this point what they utilize and have there. Again, timing chip, it will not be in your packet. You must stop at the timing table during your run gear bag check-in to get your timing chip, okay? Race day info, this is cutoffs, is located on page 13. Relays, page 14. Post-race info, like awards ceremony, that kind of stuff, is on page 16. Biggest thing that I'm going to say here is the awards ceremony is at 4 p.m. Located at the stage. So make sure you know where that is if you think you're going to be one of the front runners out there. Finish your certificate. You can hit up this website right here on page 16. It is a direct link, hyperlink. Just click it, enter your details, and you should be good to go after the race. Qualifying for the 70.3 World Championships is on page 18. The allocation process, it breaks it down by what's happening, and then after the race they will allocate the slots with the appropriate allocation. So now page 19, we're getting into the nitty-gritty details of the race here. This is typically a colder and a faster swim, a single loop swim on a rolling start course here. Athletes will go in here. They say that athletes, I'm backing up here for a second, they say that athletes are going to have to wait at their bikes and be called to the swim start by their swim projected times. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but again, that is listed in the athlete guide, so you might want to be aware of that. You can always ask a volunteer that question when you are checking in your stuff, just to double make sure that that is in fact the case. They might throw a wrench into a couple people's warm-up plans. Also, I did not see an area where they say that you could warm up before the swim, so you might not be able to. That would be another quick question that you should ask during your check-in process. But again, back to the main details here. So let's zoom in just a bit here so we can really get this course in here. All right, so the first part of the course is going to be fast. All right, it's going to be a colder swim. Don't be surprised if you get hit with a little bit of shock when you enter this water here. Again, there's going to be people battling. Even though it's a rolling start, people are going to be lined up in the wrong order. I guarantee it. They always are here. So don't be surprised if you have to swim over people or through people at this point of the race up to this first turn buoy. And it's going to be fast up to this point. First turn buoy, people are going to make this 90-degree right-hand turn and not be aware of what they are. It just is what it is at an Ironman event, 70.3 event. And again, once you make this turn, you do want to avoid stopping after the first 2 or 3 strokes. Okay, it's a 90-degree turn right, and swim. All right, use your sighting. You don't have to stop. Okay, chances are there's going to be a bunch of people in front of you. You can follow those people for 5, 10, 20, 30 strokes before you really need to get around them in sight. That is because this is at the beginning of this angle of geometry right here. And again, if you go off the course a little bit, you are going to be able to get on track relatively easily with small adjustments here. And as you go through this point right in here, once you get to this second arrow, things are going to start to calm down big time. You're going to start to spread out. You're going to start to realize if you've gone too hard or too easy right at this point in time right here. If you are going too hard, then you need to be aware of that, of what's going on right in this area right through here. And if you are going too hard, don't let the egos get you here. The egos will be out in full force at this race. This is just one of those events that it gets you, and you just got to be careful. So don't let that ego come into play, and check it at the door at this race, because you're going to need it later on. So if you are going too hard, slow it down a little bit and just allow someone else to drive the pace for the remainder of this section right through here. If you do that, you are going to be successful, and if you do find yourself alone here, just swim your pace, find some feet, and start mowing people down person by person by person at your pace, not at someone else's pace. These 2 turns right here, notoriously tricky for whatever reason. You take a right-hand turn, you're usually going directly into the sun, and people just lose all sense of orientation at this point. Don't be one of those people. Again, this is a little less than 90 degrees right here, or a little more than 90 degrees. So, and just know that it's not an aggressive turn. The biggest thing you have to compete with is the sun at this point in time. Once you take this last turn over here, it is happy days all the way to the finish point right through here. Right-handed breathers rejoice, because you will be breathing away from the sun at this point in time. And again, this is probably going to be one of the more lonely areas out on the course until you get back into about these last 3, maybe 2 sighting buoys right through here. when you do get through these boxes right through here, start kicking your feet, getting ready to rock and roll for the bike because we have a doozy coming up for you. All right. This is a very, very fast, very, very tough bike course here. And let's dive into some of the reasons why. So, let's stick on the athlete guide for a second before we go into some of the other stuff, because page 21 they talk about the swim course rules, and as we go down here we have the single loop bike course, which is 56 miles T1 down here. We are going up and around, up through the valley, up the mountain, and up to transition 2, which is located right through here, T2. So now diving into it a little bit deeper here, you can see that this is the same exact course right here, and we have about 4,300 feet of elevation gain on this course. Remember that let's call it 4,200 feet of elevation gain. If I highlight this section right through here, we have 1,600 feet of elevation gain in a span of 4.7 miles. That is going to be the area where you are going to be able to win an element bolt if you are the fastest up that hill. I forget what they call it here at this race, but that is going to be the fun point in time here. If you are going to this event for that element bolt, you might want to save your legs until you get up to that point in time. If you are not going for that element bolt, do not crush that section out on course, and we'll dive into that later. But coming out of the park here, we do have a little bit of a hill, believe it or not, going out from that swim area. A lot of athletes really, really crush this, and this is 164 feet of elevation gain in the first 0.65 miles out on course, an area where athletes typically overdo it. They want to go fast right away, and again, this hill kind of suckers them into overdoing their efforts there. After that, we do have a little bit of happy days from an elevation standpoint before we hit mile 2. And again, that is only mile 2 before the elevation starts kicking up. From mile 2 to mile 8.7. At this point in time, you should be settling into your zones. You should be rocking and rolling cadence-wise. And here we do have 530 feet of elevation gain, and the average elevation is 0.2. Average grade, is a 0.2 here. We do have a max grade of 7.5–8%, which happens right through here. Right when we get off that main road there. But again, this is going to be a point in time where you really have to be careful out on the race. If you did overdo it, you're going to pop your heart rate, and this hill's going to go a lot faster than you think. And if you are just continuously putting the pace down, might not be beneficial for you. So at mile 9 right here, we do have a steady downhill up until we hit the major hill that everyone's talking about out on course. I guarantee it. But just ignore that for a second. During this point in time, speed is going to be high for sure. It should be high. Depending on what the wind is going to do, this could be an area where you do have to do a lot more work than you think, and I would view this as an area or a section where you're going to have to work a lot more than you want to. Okay, there are no free rides out there on race day. You're going to have to put the work down, and it just is what it is. So don't view this as a great little stretch of area where you're not going to have to do any work, because that is simply not the case. Okay, very common for athletes to get suckered into the thought that I should be going fast at this point in time, and if you're not, I'm gonna put my power down. I'm gonna just totally crush this section so my speed is up, just because this elevation does have a negative profile to it. Don't get suckered into that. There's gonna be a lot of athletes doing that, and then when they arrive at this area right through here, they will effectively be going for 23 miles at tempo or a little bit above probably, before they even get to the real shebang out on this course. Once they do that, they're going to go up this hill, and they're going to totally pop once they do that. So you want to arrive at this place ready to rock and roll. You're not going to crush this major hill out on course, but you are going to be working for it, okay? There is going to be some work to do, and this is going to be the first time where we do switch to the best bike split area. So before we talk about this big hill here, we are going to go through, and I want you to watch this little avatar right through here with what is typical out on course for you. So as we scroll through here, we're going to get out of that park. We're going to have a headwind, and then when we make that left-hand turn, the wind actually stays in that headwind, which is a little bit unique. And we're almost at the bottom here of that big hill, and you can see that headwind has been going for the entire time here. So again, you just want to be careful with what you're doing out here. When you do have the wind eventually shift out of your face, it's going to shift onto the clean side of the bike, but it's still going to be a head crosswind, at least typically. And so with that, again, you just get, this is another way for you to get suckered into this hill right here. And this is why this course is viewed as one of the most challenging ones. It's not because of this big hill, believe it or not. Yeah, this is what does it to a lot of people, but it's what precedes that that really gets these legs crushed on this course. So as we approach this from mile 0 to mile 23, 23.6, you want to find the areas where you can get some of that free speed, okay? You want to be going fast here, but you do not want to do that at a huge cost to your power, your heart rate, all of that. So keep that in mind, and this is a great area where you can start practicing your cooling strategies, you can practice your nutrition, all of that good stuff. Watch your cadence. Very common for athletes to, during this big, long downhill section, have a really high cadence, and then when they get to this area right through here, they have a really low cadence, and they're fighting the whole time trying to get that high cadence back, because that's what their body is used to for those first 24 miles, okay? Vary the cadence in here. Don't be afraid to go a little low, go a little high, but don't get stuck in one cadence rhythm up until this point, because it's going to hurt you up this hill. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's talk about this big hill. Again, 4.7 miles, if I believe, off the top of my head. Yeah, 4.5 miles right here. 15 is called 1,600 feet of elevation gain through here. Max gradient, you're going to have very steep sections out on this course. They aren't going to last for very long, but it is going to be happening for sure. Category 2 climb as listed here, which is really fun. Okay, now a lot of people do get suckered into the first, let's call it half of this hill, because they have this long stretch of higher speed or free speed, right? And so this first half, they're going to be chasing that. Watch your power. This is going to be a course for power dominant people here. Watch the power and make sure you are going at your pace. Switching back to the best bike split here, taking away this speed just to make it a little cleaner. You can see that the power for this athlete is higher during this section, sure. And you want to save that power there. But what you don't want to do, let's say this athlete's FTP is, let's call it 250, right? You don't want to be going really aggressive during this section. Yeah, you want to be going hard. You should be going a little harder, but let's put hard in parentheses, right? Let's call it tempo, maybe a little bit above, all right? If you are going harder than that, let's call it FTP, and you're not chasing that Wahoo Element Bolt, you're not going to be feeling good for the rest of the ride, okay? You want to arrive at the top of this hill ready to rock and roll, okay? Yep, you should be feeling this hill big time, but again, the climbing isn't done, believe it or not. So after this section here, we have another 730 feet of climbing that does happen through this point in time. Max gradient is 7% in here, and again, this hill is no throwaway hill, and this is probably one of the harder hills out on course. People are going to just finish this major hill that we just talked about, get a little bit of downhill right through here. We're going to be going fast in places, absolutely. And then we go right back up to 4.5%, and we do have a couple of 6%ers mixed into this point in time on this hill. This is the hardest hill on course just because it takes it out of you mentally. Be ready to attack this hill mentally. And again, you don't want to overdo it just as the last hill, but you do want to be putting power down within your power ranges. Successful athletes out on this course are going to be staying within the power that they know they can put out again and again during this major section out on course. Last big key to the course here is this section right through here. And again, we do have 800 feet of elevation gain throughout this area here, with the max gradient coming at 12.3%. So your ride is not over once you get through the main hills, and this is why you need to be careful on those two real hills out on course. You have 19 miles left, so you do not overdo it because you have extra time left. These areas right through here, again, very common for athletes to get caught up in one cadence rhythm throughout this section right here. And again, they will be chasing some of the power. Again, realize if you're going over 32 miles an hour, the cost benefit of going a little faster, really driving that power, is it worth it? It's going to be a major question you have to ask yourself. If you find yourself coasting for an extended period of time, make sure you are keeping the legs moving, at least in some capacity right through here. I would love it if you could be able to get some resistance on the chain, but if there's not, then you need to figure out a way to keep those legs moving and avoid long stretches of when your legs are just inactive. Because if you do that, your body's going to go into recovery mode, and then you're going to ask it to do something with effort later on, and you're not going to be happy with the results. Okay, so don't sit in that aero position for an extended period of time during this portion right here, and know that your ride is not complete here. Make sure you stay mentally strong, because after that we are switching over to the run. This is going to be our run course, and let's switch over to the athlete guide so you can see what page it is on. Bike course rules. We have rules on page 27, littering, and we have also drafting rules right through here. Make sure you read page 27 and 28 for the bike rules. On page, I believe it is 35, we do have our one loop, believe it or not, run course. It is a double out and back, and what I mean by that is you're going to come out of transition, you're going to make a left-hand turn, and you're going to go down this out and back, and you're going to run past the transition/finish area where you will do another out and back before you finish. Going over to a self-made course, you can see here that the elevation gain is not super massive. There's going to be areas where you do have some pretty serious climbs. They're going up, but again, they do not last for an excessive period of time. The first half of this race course is going to be filled with really a lack of elevation, and the majority of this 350 feet of elevation gain is going to be happening during the last half. So for the first couple of miles, since the elevation is going to be the thing that is not going to be hitting you the hardest, it's going to be the weather and the elements that are actually going to affect you the most for this first half out and back. Because of that, for the first couple of miles, again, go a little bit easier. You don't have to stress those first couple of miles, because there's nothing really major coming up ahead. If you are an athlete that does typically fade in this course, then I would utilize your training and see what's happening in your training leading up to this. And if you do wanted to make a little stab at things for the first half, you can of course do that and not have too much penalty on this course here. Remember, if you are going to be walking on this course, you do want to be walking on some of these sharper uphills, which is going to be great for you because they're not going to last a whole lot of time, and they will allow you some significant recovery opportunities there. Aid stations out on this course, they have awesomely done this already. So when you come out of that transition area, you're going to hang that left-hand turn. First one's coming up at mile 2. Maybe even mile 1 here if this is actually correct. 1, 2, and 3, and if they are on either side, you're going to have all these options again right through here. So there's ample opportunities to hit some of these water aid stations out here. And again, you don't really have to worry about elevation affecting where those aid stations are placed too much. There is going to be some hills, remember, but they're not going to be super long hills. The majority of the hills is done after you have ridden up them. And then again, once you do this out and back, it is the same on these aid stations out through here. Remember, they have a whole host of offerings on the run. So the biggest limiter for your run success on a race like this is going to be your bike performance. So that's why I've been telling you to kind of hold back a little bit. You are going to go up them hard, but not hard in the sense of all out. So you need to save your legs just enough to have a great run out on this course. And so for those first 2 or 3 miles, it might take your legs a little bit to come back. And if you rode with a lower cadence throughout that bike portion, but keep that cadence up and realize that it will come back. You just have to give it a little bit of time. If your legs are cramping, you might want to think about doing some serious nutritional suck down after you get to the finish of your bike if you are out, or at the beginning of your run. The earlier you take care of those things that are happening to your body, the better you're going to be off at the later portions of this run. So take care of all those issues that you do have if you are having them earlier, and you will have a great race. So good luck to everybody racing out there, and if you are a turnaround sports athlete, I'll be reaching out to you individually in the days leading up to it. Good luck, everybody.